because we take on woke and COVID woke all the time, and many confuse woke with being on the left because that is the claim. I found a really stupid anti-feminist right-wing take on Twitter this week that I thought I'd share because why not point out the stupid wherever it shows up? So here it is. Zach, just briefly, if a woman hyphenates or doesn't take her husband's last name when she gets married, she doesn't respect him. So you can take that down now, so I can have my notes back.
I really hope that's not true.
Right. There's a lot of places that I could go here, but this feels just as shallow and daft a point as the idea that if white women have a food cart in which they make burritos that they learned how to make when they were in Mexico, they're engaging in cultural appropriation and need to be shut down. And yes, that did happen in Portland a few years ago. And yes, they did have to shut down their business and they're done. Right. And boy, when I went looking into that story, I'm like, wow. They admitted to looking at what the Mexican women were doing at some points when the women weren't totally interested in having them look. And so maybe they were actually thieving. It's like, okay, I'd like to know more about that. How come I'm only finding that in these stories that have already concluded that any time people from a different lineage make food of one lineage, and that's cultural appropriation, that's dumb. This is also dumb. This is shallow and daft. It doesn't recognize the many, many ways that human beings have lived, have decided to track lineage. And is it true that in a culture that has been patrilineal, which is just to say that we tend to track lineage through the male line, that it is easier if everyone follows the same naming conventions? Yeah, it would be, right? However, in an era in which women are recognized as having as much capacity, and always, of course, have, but actually have just about as much opportunity, if not absolutely as much opportunity, if not in some places more opportunity at this point, than men to actually find the way that they want to make a difference in the world, be it, creative, analytical, exploring, writing, healing, whatever it is. The idea that one has to change their name from that of their father to that of their husband upon getting married is archaic and is disruptive of a woman's ability to make a life in the world. It has nothing to do with not respecting the man that she is marrying, just as a man taking, there's a lot of ways it has nothing to do with disrespecting the man that she's marrying. It is a recognition of a woman being a complete member of the partnership with goals and values and interests that are independent in the world. That there are now three entities. That there's the man and there's the woman and there's the couple. And in our case, we decided that because of the culture that we live in, it was important and valuable to give our children your name.
Yep.
And there was, I think we may have talked about this before, but I don't even remember that we talked about that. We certainly talked about our names a bit. And even considered at some point maybe combining them, but both of our names are ridiculous enough that was, we're going to end up with whining or something. And, it just didn't make any sense precisely because the idea is like, you've always been Bret Weinstein, I've always been Heather Hying, and we were going to continue to do that now also in partnership. But our children had never been anything. And furthermore, there is evolutionary reason for a patrilineal naming convention with regard to children, which is that in a situation where the children are the genetic children of the mom, I don't have any uncertainty about whether or not I'm their mother. And I also don't have any uncertainty about whether or not you're the father, but the rest of the world might.
Hey.
They shouldn't.
No, I take your point. I mean, mammals, this is just simply the nature of the beast. This is simply it. And so we are signaling to the world the truth, which is that we are a family. And yeah, I have the name I was born with, but the four of us are a family, and our children have your name, and that therefore raises no questions, as it should not. So I take this as a simple example of a canonical problem, right? Used to be that a household involved a man, breadwinner, went out and did things in the world to the extent that somebody was going to start a sawmill or innovate, it was likely to be the guy. Mm-hmm. The woman was part of a team, but the element of the teamwork was largely done on the home front. That's not a fair thing, but that's the way biology set things up. The modern world.
Well, it's not that old. That pattern is maybe as old as agriculture.
Yep, I would agree. But these naming conventions are post-agriculture, mm-hmm. right? There are naming conventions that go before that. But I guess my point is, in a world where biology has saddled women with domestic work, what you have is a division of labor and a team, and that team has a name, and it made sense in some ways for that name to be the forward-facing part of the team.
Name dad. Name public-facing person was the name of the team that was public-facing.
Right.
And therefore also the name of the team inside.
Right. And in modern circumstances, largely as a result of birth control, women have been liberated to participate in the world in, innovation and productivity outside the home. And that's a great thing. But the point is, it creates a situation in which we do not have a solution for the naming convention that we inherited. All solutions are bad, right? Including the solution of everybody keeps their own name, mm-hmm. and then the kids have one person's name or the other person's name, right? Hyphenating.
I find myself when I write to the kids' schools or the teachers who don't know me, I'm like, Heather Hying, Zach Weinstein's mom, just in case you were wondering, who am I? Why is this random person writing when the kid has a different name? Right. But that's a tiny little cost.
Well, I think the point is there's a tiny little cost with all solutions. They're all bad. Yeah. Literally, all of them.
Hyphenating is a bigger cost, I think, because it's not sustainable.
Right, exactly. Hyphenating is worse. Yeah. Choosing one or the other is worse. It negates the nature of children, right? How you choose one or the other is fraught. And so the point is, nobody's got a solution to this. And the problem with that perspective is that it basically points to one of the solutions and doesn't recognize what's wrong with it. And what's wrong with it
doesn't recognize the costs.
In a world where both men and women are building reputations in the world, the fact that somebody has to effectively be nominally trans, that's not the way it sounds, but the idea that you have to transition your identity mm-hmm. at the point that you marry, it's arbitrary because marriage isn't what it used to be, right? Marriage used to be the point at which you start producing children, and some married people don't produce children by choice, and some people have children before they marry. And so the whole system has come apart. And the fact that
it was also much more widely understood to be a permanent condition.
Yeah.
So, I do think that part of what underlies that, that wrong conservative take is a recognition that increasingly people get married thinking, if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. And, really it is supposed to be permanent, and sometimes it can't be, sometimes it doesn't work out. But there would be an additional cost for sure. There would be additional reasons to stay in a marriage if you're like, and I'm now going to go back to the person that I was then in terms of my name. Like there are additional, problems with actually becoming independent and having a public facing persona in the world. If you might be changing your name all the time.
Yeah. I don't think of it as a permanent condition. I think of it as a chronic condition.
Do you?
I don't know. It seemed like something to say, but
sure.
One way or the other.